Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Use code DNVR when you sign up for a new account to get amazing odds boosts every single day. Rudo, AJ, Megan coming at you live. Going to be answering some questions from listeners today. So if you have your questions, most of them are already submitted on Twitter, but I'm sure we'll get to some live Twitter and chat questions as well. So yeah, it should be a fun day. You good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got my foot too close to my space heater, which keeps my little feeties warm during our shows. But if I get it too close, it's too hot and it burns my foot.
Do be how heaters work.
I know. That's what I'm saying, man. And I hate when my feeties are cold. It's so annoying.
My feet are like just always cold. I've just gotten used to it over the years. So I just live with it, I guess.
I used to,
Anyway,
and then somebody pointed out to me how crazy it was that I was living the way that I was, where I was like cold all the time. And so I got a space heater and was like, "Oh my god, this has fixed my whole problem here." And you know, now I use it on a reg. I just can't get my foot too close to it, otherwise it hurts.
all right. Well, let's get into
Anyway,
answering some questions.
before we do, man, we got to remind people that we've got the big event tomorrow.
Of course. Yes. Tomorrow. It's the last day you can well, I guess technically you could buy a ticket tomorrow morning, but less than 48 hours to our
24. I guess it is less than
it's
40.
like 28 hours.
Yeah, we're like at 28. Yeah, this is going
To
really well.
the Lacroix hockey event that we're putting on at the bar tomorrow. It will be technically before the game. Doors open at 4 p.m. During the game and post game. A bunch of Avs alumni will be hanging out at the DNVR bar. You can come down, say hi, get stuff signed, see a bunch of awesome stuff. We'll also have a bunch of them on the watch along and things like that. So be sure to tune in. There will be a big old silent auction going on at the event as well at the bar.
Yep.
You can buy all sorts of amazing signed stuff like
The silent auction is legit, man. It's got tickets to a suite for a game this season. It has there's only one of these jerseys in existence, and it is the 400 consecutive sellout Avs jersey. It's signed by Adam Foote and Milan Hajduk. There's a 1996 official Stanley Cup champs T-shirt signed by the entire team. So that's at this point going to be a lot harder to find. There's also a signed McKinnon stick, a signed Makar puck, and a Stanley Cup, a 21-22 Stanley Cup champs team signed pennant. So if you don't care about the old Avs and you just want signatures from the ones that just won the cup, that's there too.
Lots of awesome stuff for sure. Yeah.
Given the price of a ticket is as low as it is just to walk in the door, you're probably going to be bidding quite a bit more on really, really awesome items like that. So, and that money goes to Lacroix hockey.
Yep. All proceeds
in
go
honor of
straight
Pierre's
back
legacy.
in. Yep.
So,
and there is a limit to the number of tickets that we can sell. So I'm encouraging people to buy sooner rather than later, even not waiting until tomorrow morning, just because we do have to stop at some point to give people a great chance to actually talk with the players during the game.
Yep.
Yeah. So
it's going to be pretty cool. Megan, you have some in-game events that you're going to be doing. Rudo and I are going to be on the watch along talking to some players, and it'll be a cool night at the bar. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be really neat.
Yep.
I'm excited. Honestly, I'm really excited to talk to Milan Hajduk again, because last year we talked to him about last year's team and the mentality they needed to adopt to win the cup, and then talk to him this year about what it was like to watch that journey for them and how life changes once you win the Stanley Cup.
Well, it should be fun. I hope all y'all can join us. Tickets are just $30. You can get them on the DNVR.com to get in the door. So be sure to come on down. Say hi to some ex-Avs. A bunch of awesome names, including Hajduk. John Mitchell will be there. Steven Reinprecht and Peter Budaj of currently tied to the team as coaches and or skills consultants or whatever you want to call them.
They are both development coaches.
There you go. That's the right term. So come down, say hi to the peoples. Okay.
Can that be part of my job title too? Can I be a part-time? Can I be partly a development coach?
Or do you develop us?
As I help Jesse and Megan develop into, I don't know, media personalities. I don't really do much there, but I just want the title.
You can be whatever you want. Call yourself whatever you want, as far as I'm concerned.
Sick. I'm putting that in my next contract. Development coach.
You're gonna have like a 50 name title.
Yeah.
By the end of this thing.
Hey, yes. Part-time development coach. There we go. Thank you, Yaya.
Okay. Let's get into some questions here. First question comes from Eddie. What is the best hockey number?
4.
I've always liked 3.
My answer feels cliche, but it actually isn't, because before I was a hockey person, my favorite numbers were both 1 and 9. And so 19 was the super number in my eyes. It's why I like players who individually wear numbers with 1s or 9s too. But even a 91 is satisfactory, but there's just something about the number 19 that I've always really appreciated.
It's a good hockey number, that's for sure.
Hockey history has also appreciated 19.
Yeah.
Right. Agreed.
And
I
9.
promised this before I was a hockey person. Those numbers are just elite numbers.
All right. The super number 19 confirmed. All right.
4 was always my number, and it was Rob Blake's number, and that's what I cared about.
My number used to be 8, and then it got taken from me when I switched teams at one point. So I switched to 3.
Did you fight that kid?
No.
Why not?
You
got to fight for what's yours.
I didn't have the choice to fight for that, so it was fine. Also, it's just a number.
There should have been a midday duel to the death.
I've never actually cared about my number. I was just like, cool, I still get to play. Just put whatever number on my back. It's fine.
Fair enough.
Anyway, keep moving.
A lot of different answers from the chat. We've got 11, 7, 2, 5, 25, another 19. There's a 33. I mean, lots of
pretty eclectic.
Yeah, pretty wide range. I mean, it would be weird if everybody was like 19 and then we all just stopped, right?
What's the least like common numbers in the NHL? It's got to be something in like the 70s or 80s,
50s and 60s.
You think?
You don't ever see 50s and 60s in hockey.
Yeah, I guess you're right about.
Like, remember when Gabe Bork was 57 and was like, "Whatever, I'm not going to be here long enough for it to matter."
There's been some 50s. I feel like there's been some 50s. I feel like there's a lot less 60s though.
Yeah,
60s
the
are
60s,
like pretty unique.
The 60s feel like the absolute wasteland. That's the they like assign it to Alex Bocage in his draft year, right? Like,
yeah,
they assign it to the guy where they're like, this guy has no chance to make the team. He's at the end of the roster here. And then like, we'll just let it be. You occasionally get some. Like, I think Neil Yakupov wore like 64.
Yeah, I'm trying to think right now. Lecky's 62.
Catter's 61.
Yeah.
61. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's more than I thought, but let's see. Hold on. I'm pulling up the historical thing.
They gave me 62 in youth hockey, and I couldn't even aspire to be anyone with that number.
Annunen wore 60, as did Jose Theodore.
84. I thought Peter Mueller wore 84. Or was that? No, it was 88.
Yeah, that was 88.
Yeah, 88's a pretty common number. The double numbers. I feel like the double numbers are common.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, 60 is pretty empty. Yakupov did wore 64. Keaton Middleton wore 67 for his one call up.
Burke wears 68 now.
There you go. 50 has Foot, obviously, but beyond that,
Not
Yeah,
much.
there's Anton Lindholm was 54. Obviously, McLeod was 55.
David Jones, I think he was
Yeah,
54.
he
was
was
54.
54 as well. McDermott is 56.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all right. Yeah, Derek Morris at 53.
80s are pretty slim. Besides 88.
I mean, it's an actual letdown that there is no 69. That there's not like an illustrious history of 69. It truly is an actual letdown. You know, Kate is in the chat joking that she doesn't want to actually say it, but look, 16. There should be a long, like, storied history of the number 69.
There's too many Lou Lamoriellos who would make you change your number.
And instead, it's just like, it's like a wasteland. Nobody wants to take it. Like, come on.
All right. Anyway,
if you get drafted first overall, you should be required to wear 69.
Moving on to the next question, and a question we talked about briefly before the show. How big of a problem do the Avs have at 5-on-3s?
So we didn't know. We did not know. And I don't actually still have them in front of me. But we went through the last 7 seasons, I guess 6 plus the start of this year, to see if the Avs have actually been bad at it. They have not been. The reality here is that teams just don't do it very often. I think the most that the Avs had ever had it in a single season was 13, and they only scored a couple of goals on it. But percentage wise, they've never been very good at it. They've never been bad at it. They've always been kind of right in the middle, in that like mid pack of the league. So I was curious about it. I went back and looked and finally dug through the numbers. I didn't even know where to find them. I had to like Google where to find them, and then once I got an answer on where to go, like it's just NHL.com, by the way. But you have to like dig through some filters in order to actually get to it. It's pretty well hidden, but it was yeah. They don't really have that big of a problem at 5-on-3.
Well, and it's hard to even really take those stats that seriously because they have over the past 6 seasons they have like 47 attempts at 5-on-3. So like even if all of those were full 2 minutes, which they're not, you're looking at like less than 100 minutes of hockey there.
Right. And you are talking like how many 5-on-3s are like 11 seconds long.
Right, exactly.
And it's like, oh, well, you're 0-for-1 on a 5-on-3. Well, you didn't score on a 5-on-3. So does that mean you deserve to lose? Or is it like, where's the line of demarcation for if you don't score on a 5-on-3, you deserve to lose? How long does the 5-on-3 need to be? Is it at least a minute? Because
45 seconds for sure.
But that's where it's like I have no It doesn't, because even I can look this up and if you look at I've got last year's pulled up. The Avs had 12 5-on-3 opportunities that spanned 9 minutes.
Yeah. So maybe it might be more accurate to say they played 9 minutes at 5-on-3 than it is to say they had 12 opportunities.
Yeah. For the record, the most 5-on-3 time on ice last year was Detroit at 14:36, and they scored 4 goals.
Yeah. So it just doesn't happen long enough to be a significant sample size for any team.
Yeah. I think the only team that you can really say was really, really great at 5-on-3 last year was Edmonton. They were 5 of 9.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's very good.
You know, that's a combination of they actually scored a handful of goals, but they actually had some chances. I'm not giving Columbus's 2 for 4 a lot of burn there.
50%, but
yeah. But they spent 1 minute and 29 seconds on 5-on-3 in their 4 opportunities.
Even the 2 they didn't score on were like 20 seconds.
Yeah, couldn't have been very long at all. So, I just to say, like, one, teams almost never practice 5-on-3 because it is, again, we're talking the most that a single team had all of last season was 14 minutes across an 82 game season. They spent 14 minutes in that situation. So teams almost never practice it. It's super niche. You basically run your power play, but you just have one less you like get closer to everything. Everybody takes a step forward, right? Like you get a little bit closer on 5-on-3. So it's not really a thing that the teams practice. They don't really make major adjustments to it. It's kind of it's weird because it's such an advantage, but it's also like, it's one, as we're talking about, it's a very limited amount of time. Rarely do you see the 2 minutes, like what Colorado got the other day. And then, you can also do, like, we look at the Avs, the 5-on-3 the other day, I thought was pretty good. They just didn't score. Like,
yep.
They had a couple of really good scoring chances, and the goalie just made a better play. And that's that. So, a long way to say, I guess I just don't think that they have like a problem with it.
Yeah, agree. Okay, we are brought to you by Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR. You can get yours at your local liquor store when you use the Breck Beer Locator online, or of course, you get 8 different kinds on tap down at the DNVR bar, so you can come check that out. Also brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Go over there, use code DNVR when you sign up for a new account. With that account, you can bet $5 on any NBA team to win their next game. If they do, you get $200 in free bets. So I don't know if you guys know this, but sometimes there's games in the NBA that are like gimmies. So it's really easy to get those $200 in free bets. And once you get that, you can take those. It's 8 $25 bets, which you can bet on anything on the website, basically, and have some fun with it. Mess around, bet on the Avs, don't bet on the Avs, bet on crazy sports like Highlight that AJ was getting into the other day.
I've been into Highlight since I was like younger.
Sure.
First time I ever heard of it, I was like, this isn't a real sport. And then I got to see it played live, and I was like, this is the most amazing sport. Anyway, Highlight rules.
It's an option. Check it out at DraftKings. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Other terms, restrictions, and conditions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And of course, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. All right. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Answering some questions today. This is kind of a two-parter. First, he talks about, some say the Sedins don't have the counting stats to make the Hockey Hall of Fame. What do we think about the Sedins? Should they make it? Well, they've already made it, but anyway. And 2, are there any other borderline Hall of Fame cases that you think should get in for their uniqueness to the sport?
I think they used Kessel as the example.
They did, yeah.
I don't know that I have an opinion on this.
Fair enough.
I just hockey already has such wide parameters.
Yeah.
For making it into the Hall. That I don't know, like, force of personality. Like, does Phil Kessel get to be in the Hall of Fame because of that all-time great tweet that he sent during the Olympics the year that he didn't get to make the team, where they left him at home and he was like, oh, I have this funny feeling I should be somewhere right now, but can't explain it or whatever. And it was hilarious. But I don't know, man. I don't know that I have an opinion on this.
The thing is, like, I feel like a lot of the unique talents might just get in anyway, because Kessel's approaching 1,000 points if he plays another year or two. someone like Joe Pavelski, a person who really brought deflections and just a raw ability to tip the puck, maybe is the closest thing I can think of to like a borderline guy that had one particular skill.
Yeah. I mean, Pavelski's the late career push,
Yeah.
where he's totally found another level in a really high scoring environment. Obviously, scoring around the league has gone up, so some of these guys are having crazy jumps, right? In their production. But Joe Pavelski's like 38 and still doing this.
Yep.
So you do wonder about a guy like that, where it's, hey, can that longevity? Because we've talked about how there are some guys that, a guy like Pavelski you don't think of as a Hall of Famer, and then you get to the end of his career and you're like, God, he played till he was 40. He was a point per game player, late in his 30s. Like, maybe, I don't know. The Hall of Fame to me, I think, I don't know. I guess I just don't have many thoughts on this. Doing a lot of talking for having nothing to say. Go ahead.
I think if, maybe there were a few players presented to consider, like they might have suggested Kessler, or did you say Bill Kessel?
Yeah, it was Kessel.
Yeah, Kessel.
Okay, that makes sense. It would be easier to answer because just taking a shot at the dark at players who might have that unique quality. I think longevity is definitely a real quality that we've talked about as a merit to be in consideration for Hall of Fame, but by itself is not enough. And that's sort of where I would stand too, generally.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to be a unique experience to a certain extent in hockey. Obviously, yeah, chat's talking about Pierre Turgeon. Obviously, he should be in. There's a handful of all-time snubs to the Hall of Fame. But
yeah, and the Turgeon thing makes no sense.
Yep.
He was a great player. He was the best player on his team for many, many years. He was a point per game player over the course of his career. He played well over 1,000 games. Like, McGillney is another one that I think has always been overlooked as well. Those two guys, I don't get it.
Yep.
I don't. Pierre Turgeon way more so than Alexander McGillney, but I don't get it.
Okay, we had a ton of questions about trades ranging from Ryan O'Reilly or Jonathan Toews to Bo Horvat to other options as well. Trade front stuff, just generally. I'm not going to go over each of these one by one, but one, at this point, do we see the Avs making a significant move this year, or is it still very much up in the air?
It still feels... Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. It's all you.
I was going to say that it still feels just a little bit up in the air. And I guess, too, I would ask if we considered what they did at the deadline last year to be big moves or not. I think what the Avs gave up probably didn't feel big at the time just because it pulled from the prospect pool. And they are pretty asset poor in that regard this season. So I don't know that something like that would play out. So it feels like if they were to make a big trade for a big return, it would involve something a little bigger than what we saw last year. But looking at when that happened at the deadline, that's still kind of where I'm pinning that to be when the Avs a couple months before that would be considering making that type of move. So it still feels just a little bit too soon because reinforcements are supposed to be on the way with some healthy people returning to the lineup. And I think that will better decide what their needs are. I think the 2C conversation is a very fair one that will probably still be on the table in a few months' time. Just because even with the flexibility that we see with guys getting healthy and returning to the lineup, that still looks like it will be a question. I think the depth, though, is going to have some more options. Once guys get healthy, then that part of the lineup gets bolstered from guys who were playing up before, that kind of thing. So the short answer is I still feel like it's just a little too soon, but it's not outside the realm of possibility to be considering this.
Okay.
I would say in this very moment, They very obviously need to make a deal, but this isn't the moment and this isn't the team that they're going to walk into the postseason with. So right now, honestly, doesn't really matter that much
True.
in this regard. They do need to wait and see what they look like when healthy. I agree with Megan. The 2C thing is just going to continue to linger, and we're probably going to talk about it approximately 16,000 more times over the next few months.
No doubt.
The only way it stops being a thing is if Evan Rodriguez steps up into that job and not just does a good job, but does an exceptional job and ends all conversation about it. For me, Bo Horvat doesn't make any sense. That's a guy that's going into free agency in his 20s. Is also, at least for right now, having an insanely good season. Driven largely by shooting percentage, but whatever. At the moment, would probably cost you your first round pick in Sean Barons. If you think that that's a fine price for a second line center that you have zero chance of keeping, then okay. But for me, I think that's a hard fucking no. I'm not even remotely interested in that. As much as I love, like, Bo Horvat is like this dude that I have loved forever. So as much as I personally would be into that, I just think that's bad. O'Reilly, I don't think will actually be available. So I mean, it's fun to watch the Blues lose at the start of the season, but I don't think that they will continue to be there, and I don't think that they will. I just don't think he'll actually be on the table. Jonathan Toews has always been the easy answer for me. And it was really I'm not that interested in it until the season started. Just because Jonathan Toews has played really, really good hockey so far this year. He's been Chicago's best player. And the price of acquisition just wouldn't be very expensive for a pending UFA that's 34 years old. Your chance of keeping him if things go really well for you and he can transition into the twilight of his career from a 2C to a 3C, that could be on the table. That could be a thing. And then you do start scouring the bottom of the league and you start looking around. You say, is there a guy in Montreal? I know that Jonathan Drouin, and I know he's not a center. I know Jonathan Drouin is a guy that Abs fans talk about literally every single year. Sean Monahan's on an expiring deal. Elon is not going to give me back my Twitter. I tried already. Also, that staff probably has all been fired for having opinions too. But no, you do look around. Boone Jenner from Columbus is a guy that you would have to wonder, especially with the centers that the Blue Jackets have in Sillinger and Johnson that are like up and coming. Roslovic as well. Would Boone Jenner be a guy that could be made available? We all know that the Avs in Columbus have this never-ending whatever, right? Like this, they're forever tied together until the Avs stop acquiring former Columbus players. So I think that's where you probably do look and say, hey, is there a fit here? Can some of this make sense? Obviously, varying degrees on those players, like where those guys are, how they would fit in Colorado, all very, very different. So, I just don't think that I don't think there was a single name on that list that makes me really excited. But you can understand where the appeal would be. And the reason why I always go back to Toews is because I think it's just the one that's the easiest to do. Chicago's asking price would be the lowest for him. And like the things like the leadership conversation, where he fits into your team, where he fits into your style, how like what are his strengths even at this point of his career versus what the Avs do well as a team. All of those things, they're just really easy, natural fits. And I think that he would give you that the face-off ace that we've kind of talked about would be nice to have around. it's maximum veteran sauce. It really is. Like, it's the max. Like, it doesn't get any more veteran sauciness than Jonathan Toews, where he checks all the boxes. He's got championship experience. He's later in his career. He's seen everything that can be seen in a career, and the player on ice, he's also having a bit of a bounce back year this year. And I think that that's an important element to this, because my lack of interest at the start of the year was Jonathan Toews hasn't been very good for a couple of years, but he's off to a good start. If he continues to play quality hockey, my interest is there. If it takes a nosedive, my interest goes away.
All right.
But even if my interest goes away, it's not hard to look at it and say, on paper, we get it. A team that is not asset heavy in the Avalanche, trading a 3rd round pick a couple years from now, maybe a 2nd round pick, if it has to get to a 2nd round pick, if it's really competitive. I don't think it will be, because the money is going to be a really hard thing for anybody to make work. It's a lot at maximum retention. It's still a lot of money to fit in under the cap. And I don't know how many teams he's going to be interested. I believe he's got control over that process. And so I don't know how many teams he'd be interested in going to. I don't think it's going to be like just any old, like, well, this, Minnesota, whatever, is going to push for a playoff spot. So he'll go there just because they're close to the postseason. He could probably have control of the process to the point where he gets to pick. These are the 2 or 3 best teams that are calling with offers. These are the only teams that I'll go to, a Colorado or a Boston, or, somebody else at the top of the standings at the time.
Okay. Next question. Favorite goal scored from the playoffs?
God, this is a hard one.
I think this is probably among a few people's favorites, but the Kadri overtime goal that he didn't immediately realize in Game 4 of Tampa was in what the rest of the team did, or the Burakovsky goal that went directly through the net in the Nashville series.
Both very good answers.
Such an awesome goal to watch back. So clearly a goal. And we were all like, I remember that watch along where we were just like, what?
Did that go in?
That's a goal, right? And like, we were all sitting around upstairs looking at each other like, are we all high? What just happened? And yeah, that was a great goal. That's a great ball.
Yeah, the lucky OT winner to send him to the cup, I think, is up there for me.
It was just so, like, you could see it and you knew it.
Yeah.
Like, when he got that puck on his stick and the entire net is empty and Mike Smith is like, oh, no. Like, you were like, they're going to the cup final. Oh my God. And then he scores and you're like, and then they do that, like, review for the high stick, because it is close to being a high stick. And it was like tense moments, because you're like, is this a thing? What's happening here? Yeah, that's a great. I like that one too. I think for me, the two that I look back on with the most fondness for now. You ask me again tomorrow, and this would be a totally different answer. But Josh Manson's Game 1 overtime winner over St. Louis. And it's not about the goal itself. It's entirely about the little jump that he does. And the way that Sam Girard is like the world's most
jumps into his arms. Yeah.
Pirate, like dive bombing Josh Manson with joy. And it was the celebration after that goal where the Avs had fucking dominated the Blues, and Jordan Binnington played out of his mind and got so lucky multiple times in that game that the Avs just boofed scoring chance after scoring chance. Sound familiar? And that was the one that went in, like, and Josh Manson, and it was like not just like he got the puck and just like throws it to the net, but he like made the move intentionally to wait for the shooting lane to open up. Like it was awesome, and Sam Girard was 7 feet tall in mid jump. Like, you don't see dudes like take to the air
Well,
on hockey skates like that.
and the mic'd up version is there's not a single coherent word from anybody on the
Oh
team.
yeah,
It's all of them just going like, "Ah!"
Hey, it's just white noise. It's all it is. Like you could put that into a white noise machine and people would sleep. Like it was just nonsense. So it was that one, and then the Darren Helm one.
Yeah.
The Darren Helm game winner against St. Louis was, for me, different because I was not on the watch along. I had left to pee. And then while I was downstairs, Comfer scored.
Yep.
And so I was like, well, now I'm down here. And so I was pacing downstairs. I was pacing back and forth at the end of it. And I think it was just so shocking. We were all resigned to overtime.
Yep.
And the play, like, it's Eric Johnson bringing the puck up the ice. You know, like you're just like, this hasn't been a dangerous thing in 2 or 3 years now.
He passes it to just nobody, kind
well,
of.
And he just, and I think it's LOC. He gives it to LOC,
right.
and LOC just
LOC, yeah.
he just throws it into space, and it comes off the wall, and you're just like, okay. And then it's like Darren Helm, who scored like only a couple of goals last year, and you're not thinking is in any way a dangerous factor here, and he just smokes that thing. And it rocked, and like the shock of it, and then I gotta tell you, the Schadenfreude of watching TikTok later with that Blues fan in the background going, no, that I watched that clip a lot and laughed a lot during their pain. Sports make bad people out of all of us, and so I think that's probably the one. Like that's the one that I think I really, and maybe like all 3 of Nazem Kadri's "fuck you" goals to the city of St. Louis.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, because after the first one, he was like, he like cups the ear and he's like, "What's up? I know y'all hate me." But by the third one, it was like full on, like he's like pimp walking on the ice, right? Like it's like the strut is on, like it's. The whole thing was just so satisfying.
We're bordering on our favorite goal from the playoffs was all of them at this point.
I will just say, really underrated for me. But the 7-0 goal against Tampa Bay, the Cale Makar coming down, or 6-0 goal, I think. Yeah, where he comes down shorthanded and is still attacking, and you're just like, bro. What are you doing? And he just goes down and scores a shorthanded goal because he's just like, well, it's just what I do. And that was like these dudes are stone cold killers. Like that was one of those moments where you're just like, okay,
no mercy.
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to be in the building for some of those events, use Game Time. You can get tickets up to 60% off at Game Time. There's a link down in the description of the video that you can use to get over there. Over 15 million people have used it. If you use the link, it helps us out too. So be sure to do that. You get tickets to the Avs, of course, but tickets to all Colorado sports and all sports across the country, no matter where you are. So be sure to get in on Game Time and get those amazing deals. Highly recommend you check them out. Some of the best prices out there possible for sporting events. So Game Time, download the app today. And again, use that link in the description. Help us out. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Multiple people asked this. What happens if too many players on a team get injured? Like there are only so many people that you can call up, right? And there's a couple of facets to this. So theoretically,
like if they run out of contracts,
theoretically you could hit the 50 contract limit if you have 30 injury. If you have 31 injuries, you couldn't ice a full 20-man roster.
Okay, so we are talking about like an epidemic has taken hold.
Yeah,
here.
like the number of injuries that you would have to hit to actually get to this point would be insane. So that's not really realistic. The more realistic situation you're talking about is like if enough injuries happen and cap stuff gets weird, that is where the emergency call-up system comes into play, where if enough people get hurt and you play with like 16 people for a game, you then are allowed some cap relief to call up a like league minimum level player.
Yeah, it's like an emergency call where the guy doesn't count against the cap, where he gets called up and it's like he costs you $0 for that game.
Yep. But you have to play at least one game just short a dude to get that.
I will tell you, it's been a few years since I understood the emergency call up because COVID changed all of it. They were just emergency call ups were left and I was like, I no longer have any idea what an emergency call up is. I just don't know anymore. And I don't know that those rules have even changed since COVID. Like I really, they might still be going with their super double secret YOLO system, and I don't know it because there are times where the emergency thing gets used as a designation, and I'm like, how? Why?
The Eagles do not cancel games when half their team gets called up to the Avs. They just call up people from the Grizzlies.
Yeah, so the Eagles have the farm system of the Grizzlies in the ECHL. They have a bunch of guys on AHL contracts that are down there in the ECHL.
Now
they have like their own farm system. Now, if the Grizzlies get hurt, I don't know what those guys do.
So back when the Eagles were in the ECHL and I was covering them, there were a couple games where it was like, okay, they signed this dude out of the SPHL who's trying to fly here tonight so they can have 7 forwards for this game.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, God. It gets pretty rough.
When you're digging into the SPHL, you are you're getting into some dreamers.
Yep.
You're getting into some guys hanging on that are still playing the game because they just love it.
Yep.
Not so much guys that should be getting paid real money for it at that point. But you appreciate the love for the game, right?
Oh, for sure.
And it's super cool for those guys to get a call where it's like, yeah, sure.
Totally. I think there's been one SPHL player to actually make the NHL goaltender. Skater has never made it higher than the AHL if they've played in the SPHL, which the dudes that make it to the AHL made a career out of it. So that's sick for them. But
yeah,
it's a long way to go from the SPHL to, even the AHL.
Yeah, it is.
Next question comes from our guy Travis, who asks, would you rather fight a bear after hibernation or Meghan after someone talks bad about one of the team's goalies?
Give me the bear.
Bear can't grip a knife, right? So
I think a bear could.
I don't know. I don't think it could use it very effectively.
I watched enough of that show. What was it? Alone, where they have to go out and survive for as long as they can in like the Alaskan wilderness or something. A couple of those people juked bears, so I'm taking the bear. I'm not juking Meghan. Meghan would just murder me, and that would suck.
See, the thing is, like, if I shoot a bear, I feel like I could convince people that it's like, okay, I was defending myself. If I shoot Meghan, I'm going to prison. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I don't know that you're going to make it to prison.
That's true. Someone will just murder me for shooting Meghan, probably.
Exactly. The pitchforks will come out, and they will be on fire.
I would also take the bear. Just to stay sharp.
Gotta keep your skills up to date. God. Oh no.
Good training.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Meghan regularly killing bears, so I'm definitely taking the bear.
Oh.
It turns out, instead of Grasshopper Hotel, it was Grasshopper Gateway, because it was a gateway to her killing a lot worse over the years.
This is a slippery slope, guys.
Everything is.
If you could bring back any Avs prospect, who would it be and why from any prospect that's left the org?
I'm assuming this is like recently.
That's actually what I wondered too. If it's like a player that still sort of fits the bill of the prospect, or if it's a player that was once a prospect but is now pretty solidified.
AJ's
Or
about to
like
throw
going
Mark
back in
Denis
Avs
out here.
history. And well, yeah, because I'm like, well, Johnny Boychuk would be such a great fit. Like prime Johnny Boychuk on this Avalanche team would be such a great fit. Like, sorry, Josh Manson, I'm already replacing you, but like I would have loved to have gotten to see what like Johnny Boychuk, the career that he had. The Avs gave him 4 games, and we're like, we're good. Like one of their biggest. Like we did all the work
forward,
here.
no less.
We did all the work here, and then they like fail right at the finish line. They do all the developing of Johnny Boychuk, and then they get rid of him for Matt Hendricks, and it's like, okay. Matt Hendricks ended up having a nice career, really weirdly good shootout guy, but
no Johnny Boychuk though.
Yeah, I would say recently Drew Hellison, I think is one that really still sticks out. Where I'm like, I'll always be curious what could have happened there in Colorado's system with his nastiness. I understand like the Manson thing, like Hellison couldn't have done it, and he only just now got called up to the Ducks, so it's not like he's been living large out there. But it would just the way that he played and the way that he was coming along, his game was developing in such a way that I don't know. Hellison will always be a really interesting one for me.
Personally, and this is way more like not a personal thing. It would be Milosh for me, and like I know he's just a 7th D in the NHL or whatever, but always liked him. He was a super cool guy. One of the first people I ever interviewed down with the Eagles. So
I did really like him.
Megan's pulling up a list of 30 players right now.
No, it's kind of like trying to decide between Justin Barron and Drew Hellison, because I've seen Drew Hellison only a couple times now with the San Diego Gulls, and it's hard because it is the what could have been conversation with Hellison in a lot of ways that I got to see some more of that realized with Barron, that I'm tempted by the unknown with Hellison, but there's a little bit that is known about Barron that I still really like. And both very similarly, though, still have a little bit to prove either way. But so it's basically the question comes down to who would I choose between them, and I'm really having a hard time picking. I still have this. I just really appreciated Justin Barron. It feels hard not to look at the tools that he has and the runway that he has in front of him and what he still can do with it. Like I'm still high on Barron, so Justin Barron and Sean Barron's, but
I'm low key. I'm glad they're not going to be on the same team. That was going to be a Mark Mosher nightmare.
See, okay, so Timmins is in the chat, and I was like, he's kind of like made his HL identity more known now. So is he considered a prospect still? I mean, his failure to launch has been so much rooted in injury that it's really hard to talk about for Connor Timmins and what could have been.
Yeah, Timmins was, I mean, the end of Timmins' time in Colorado, unfortunately, was that Vegas series, which everybody looks back so angrily on. Like, of course, right? But like Connor Timmins, I think, showed so much grit and mettle in that, and like, just mental toughness in that series that for him to have played as well as he did, not that he was exceptional, but he treaded water in a series where a lot of Avs drowned. And it was a really interesting showing from him where it was, you could really just see all of it coming together. And for him to have had the injury issues that he's had since getting traded, it sucks so much. Like I hate it. I hate it. You always want to like win the trade, but they did. They won the Stanley Cup. You want Connor Timmins to be an all-star now.
Right.
I I also hate it because of my least favorite talking point of the Avs' inability to develop a player past the first round. That the very specific their inability to develop a player that was drafted past the first round, but that they drafted, but also was drafted because the undrafted guy doesn't count. And Timmins was there. He was done. He got to the finish line. He's an NHLer, and now it's just injuries have stolen that. And it's weird that we all named defensemen because there have been no forwards to pick. The forwards have either worked out or it's been a clear cut no.
Yep.
Like I can't pick Kerfoot here because he was never really a prospect. He was an NHLer for a couple of years and then got moved.
Yep.
So, it's weird that there's like no forwards for us to pick from in recent Avalanche history.
Unless you circle back on Tyson Jost.
Yeah, which, like, again, he's not really he stopped being a prospect a long time ago, and just started being an NHLer.
I thought we were in that room because of Kerfoot. That was all.
Yeah, no, totally. Like those were the options, right? Like it was like Kerfoot and Jost were it. Like that, we're stretching for that list because there's just the forwards have been just a total dead zone. That's the weirdest thing. Like Oscar Olausson is a first round forward that they've drafted, who has like no like hype right now. He's been fine to start in his AHL career.
Yep.
No, I have no issues. I've not been wanting at all. I think he's been good, and from the couple games that I've watched, I think I've got no problems there. But there are so many guys in front of him, including other first rounders like Martin Kaut and Shane Bowers are still, what's going on here? You do have Sampo, and then the Jean-Luc Foudy breakout that's happening. Like I think in 3 years, this could be, maybe even just 2 years, this could be all forwards. And right now we're all defensemen because those are the only guys that we've had that have been real options.
It's true. We can take some questions from the chat here live as well. One more question from Twitter. It was, I lost it. What was it? The Twitter question is, hang on, I'm pulling it back up. I'm sorry, I'm a slacker. It was a thing.
Do you have it? Because if not, while you find it, I can answer this Joey Hishin question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so how about Joey Hishin without the head hit? That's a total reimagining of history. He never once he didn't even get to pro hockey without when Braden McNabb concussed him. So we just have no idea. And Hishin even admitted that even once he got through it, like what was it, like a year and a half, 2 years later, when he finally made his AHL debut for the Monsters, that he was not the same player. He didn't have the same aggressiveness because they drafted him in the first round. They overdrafted him. It was a whole thing that, he was a guy that was like ranked in the 50s that they drafted in, like what, 17th overall or something. And then his D+1, he kicked ass. He was one of the best players in the OHL. And it looked like, oh my gosh, did the Avs seriously get this thing right? And then during the OHL postseason, I believe, is when McNabb hit him, and we never got to know. I mean, it's a total what if. We have absolutely no idea. But boy, would this have been the era for a guy like Joey Hishin to have succeeded. A smaller guy, a skill guy where the physicality is not, you're not worrying about blindside hits and hits to the head as much as you did 10 years ago. So,
yeah,
Joey Hishin could have been a lot of fun, but it would be a totally different timeline.
Agreed. The question I was looking for was, which team with a hot start is a fraud? I don't know that any of them are necessarily frauds, but I will say Boston is not going to keep up a winning percentage close to 900. They're just on a really hot start. They're not that good. Not that they're bad. They're just not the best team ever.
That was my answer because I think that just stabilizes. I don't necessarily think they do not have pieces to continue being a competitive team. And I'm so excited for what this has meant for Monty's start back as an NHL coach. But there's even something on Twitter, because I know Swayman had been dealing with some kind of injury, and then the prognosis was updated today, like, he's really coming along better than expected. And someone's like, are they performing exorcisms in Boston right now? Like, what are they doing over there to have this timeline for recovery and this strong start the way that they have? And I think the Avs need some of whatever Boston's on right now.
Yeah, some sort of recovery.
Linus Ullmark has been exceptional to start the year. Just a fucking wall back there. Thank you, sir, for propping up my fantasy team. I mean, it's easy to look at the top and you look at a 13-3 New Jersey and you're like, well, that shit's not continuing.
Yeah.
Like that feels like a layup. But of the teams that are kind of at the top right now, I think the biggest one that feels like smoke and mirrors to me is Winnipeg. They've got 9 wins. Only 5 of those come in regulation. When you are getting into overtime, you're in overtime that many times to start the year. They even have an OTL loss. So you're talking about a third of their games have gone to extra time right now already. Like, and you're getting unbelievable goaltending out of Connor Hellebuyck. Now they've not had Nick Ehlers, but if Nick Ehlers is the difference between them being legit second or third place in the Central or a very smoke and mirrors second and third place, like you're just not good enough. Ehlers is a really good player, but he can't be that important to your team. And it's like they're 2 points ahead. They're 2 points ahead of Colorado, and that's without Colorado having so much of their lineup now to start this season. And that's one where I think I look at Winnipeg and I just say, look, they're already surviving off of the unsustainability of overtime. New Jersey, I think, is actually going to be. I think New Jersey's really good, and of course, like
New Jersey certainly has the talent.
Yeah, and I think the goaltending will start to level off a little bit. Just because I think their goaltending is like fine, but not
as good as it's been. Yeah,
like 6th best in the league or whatever. But I think New Jersey's offense is legit. I think their defense is underrated. I think it's solid. So I think that they're giving one of those old teams out east a scare this year in Washington and Pittsburgh.
If not the Avs, what team would you most like to win the Stanley Cup?
The Islanders.
Yeah, we knew that from you. I don't really have a second team I'd love to see win the cup. If you get to the cup finals and the Avs aren't in it, I usually root for the team that has either never won or has gone longer without winning one.
Unless it was St. Louis.
Yeah.
Man, and I feel bad rooting for Boston.
Even then, like, I didn't mind it. Watching history like that's cool, even though St. Louis can suck it, but
yeah.
Yeah, I think there are more teams that I know I don't want to see win a Stanley Cup compared to, because I actually could really be talked into a lot of teams that I would be endeared to pretty easily. Especially if they are Pioneer on the team.
No, it's just that easy.
Yeah. A low-key answer here would be Seattle for me as like the ultimate fucking
body Vegas. Yeah, I'm here for that.
With Vegas, because Vegas being like, no, we're the expansion, like we're the model, everybody loves us, and blah blah blah, blah like all of our success, and then the Kraken to do it in like year 2, and just be like, sup, they actually won it. They didn't just like
joke.
Get there.
Yeah,
yeah, they actually won that thing. Sup, what you gonna say? Sup. Also, like Arizona, not just for our PHNX homies, but for a market that like, could you imagine the Stanley Cup final in that arena?
And the little 6,000 seat arena, yeah, that'd be wild.
Maybe like the first like watch party ever outside that
Has
was
more
like
people than in the arena.
like 5 times larger than
Yeah.
inside the arena. Yeah.
God, I can't imagine how much those tickets would cost.
Dude, those would be like $10,000 tickets, maybe
Yep.
more. Like, I seriously can't imagine it. Arizona, I think, would be super cool. I'm going to disagree with chat. Calgary is not a good answer.
Calgary was a no for me, unfortunately.
I'm still on. If I go my entire lifetime without a Canadian team winning it, I'm cool with that.
Here for it, yeah.
Mostly, I don't even like have like this like animus towards Canada. I don't know why I'm on that train, but maybe it's just like their collective misery kind of brings me joy once a year. When the last Canadian team is eliminated, I'm like, yes. I feel like the 72 Dolphins. I'm a villain. I'm becoming more of a villain every day.
The thing with the Canadian teams is like it feels a little bit cheap when it's like the Leafs and Habs just absolutely despise each other, but then only one of them's left in the playoffs, and it's like, I guess we're rooting for them now. Like,
I don't know how much that actually happens, though. I think this is the thing that Americans think happens, and Canadians are like, not really. Like, there's no way Kay is rooting for Toronto. I feel like there's just no. Kay would sooner take a shower in battery acid than root for the Maple Leafs. Yeah, see? There's no way she would do that. So, and if it's going to be a Canadian team, I would much rather it be Ottawa or Winnipeg. And obviously, like, Winnipeg is mostly because I don't know that I like Z would be unbelievably happy, but I also think like it would be so cool to see the parade going down Portage, going down to like I'm actually familiar with the downtown of that city now, so I'm like I can picture where it would be and what it would be like, and I'm like, man, it would be a really, really cool thing to experience, to like be there and see that for them. They like love the crap out of the Jets. It's not a very big city, it's not a very popular city, but they love the crap out of that team, and I think it would be pretty cool.
Yeah, Ottawa would be the only one for me that I'd be like, that Canadian team can win. It's fine.
Well, and totally inoffensive, but also it would make Maple Leafs fans so mad, and I think that rules. I don't know why. I really like they're kind of hockey's Cubs fans where they're so loud and obnoxious all the time that their futility is almost shocking, because you would think a fan base that annoying has actually experienced something other than pain, but that's not the case. It's so weird. I don't get it, and because of it, I don't ever want to root for them. But if they did win it, I would feel like I did when the Cubs did, where I was like, the villain has won, but also I'm happy for these people that have like generations of their family have grown up miserable in this fandom.
Know nothing but awfulness.
Yeah, and like it would be like you would stop being such a fucking sports hater for a minute, and you could see like people in their 80s who have gone, whatever, whenever this happens, I guess.
Yep.
I guess if it happens this year, they wouldn't be quite that old, but not far off, but not quite that old. But it'd be like people have gone their whole lives a dedicated fan and never seen their team win it. Like a thing that the three of us don't have to experience.
Nope.
Like we won't know what it's like to go 60 or 70 years without that team winning something. We just, never seeing a championship in your life. I mean, imagine getting to the finish line, being in your 70s. You're on the 18th green of life, and this is like it for you.
That would
it's like holding out, and you're like, I can die tomorrow. I'm
right.
good.
I think that's when it's like, yep, I'm done.
Yeah.
I've seen everything life has to offer now.
I don't want to be around next year for them to blow it and screw it all up. I'm going out on a chip. That's it. I'm out. Yeah, no, that would be a thing where it's like it'd be so cool. It'd be so cool.
Yeah, okay. What is your Nightmare Cup Finals matchup? There isn't one.
In terms of like, oh God, I have to sit and watch this. Maybe like.
But you can't choose bad teams because they won't make the Cup final.
Yeah, but maybe like the Rangers and LA again.
I think LA is pretty entertaining right now, actually.
I don't, but that's okay. Yeah, I mean, Minnesota versus anybody would just make me physically sick. Which is probably how they felt last year with the Avs, like watching them stomp through the postseason.
All the teams I really hate are in the West.
Yeah.
Chicago, Detroit would probably get me to light myself on fire.
I think
that would be just.
See, I just don't care that much about Detroit anymore. Like, I think Detroit, if the Avs get eliminated somewhere else and Detroit winning a cup and those two teams being juggernauts against each other again would be sick.
Let them be buried in mediocrity forever. I don't want a cup final against them because I don't want to lose to them. I'll never get over it.
They'll win.
Never get over it, man. That sounds awful.
That's why I want it to happen, because there's a little extra. Anyway.
Maybe like St. Louis and Toronto.
St. Louis would be bad. Vegas would be bad. Those are probably the two I would hate the most from the West.
Yeah. Here we got people out here telling people how to feel again. People need to move on. That rivalry died 20 years ago. Buddy, blow it out your ass. I'm not here for that. I don't care about Detroit at all until the Avs play them, and then that hatred comes all the way back, and it lasts for 24 hours, and then it's gone again.
I'm a believer in the rivalry's dead, but if you want to hate, you can hate, as long as you're not actually like hating people that don't deserve hate. Like, that's all.
I mean, look, we're talking about second line center options. Dylan Larkin still doesn't have a contract.
That'd be fun.
I don't think Steve Yzerman's trading Dylan Larkin.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
To Colorado, but if that guy hits free agency and just wants to roll over here, it's all good. I'll take that. It did die when they moved to the East. It's totally true.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna wrap up today's show. We've been going for a while now, so we appreciate all of y'all hanging out. We will be back tomorrow, of course, with the big event going on. It will be normal pregame. I don't know. It might not be normal pregame.
I think pregame would still be pretty normal,
but
for us, because we're supposed to be upstairs and people will still be filtering in and everything. So
true.
I think pregame will be normal. Everything after that going to be weird.
Watch along. We'll have a bunch of X-Avs on, so be sure to tune into that if you're not coming down. And then post-game, we will have some alumni on as well. So be sure to tune in for all of those shows. We appreciate all of y'all. And until the next time, we will talk to you later.